Hello, fellow risk takers, and welcome to my worst investment ever. Stories of loss to keep you winning. In our community, we know that to win in investing, you must take risk, but to win big, you've got to reduce it. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm on a mission to help 1 million people reduce risk in their lives. To join me, go to myworstinvestmentever.com and sign up for our free weekly Become a Better Investor newsletter where I share how to reduce risk and create, grow, and protect your wealth. Fellow risk takers, this is your worst podcast host, Andrew Stotz from A Stotz Academy, and I'm here with featured guest Pia Singh. Pia, are you ready to join the mission?
Oh, I am excited.
I am excited to have you, and I'm enjoying our conversation we had before we turned on the microphone. So now the world gets to hear more. I want to introduce you to the audience. Pia is a business growth strategist with 15 years of experience in helping companies find ways to save on the bottom line and drive top line growth. She's a recognized growth strategist with excellent strategic planning capabilities. She is a part of 2 world records in training and business growth and has authored 4 books on business startup and scale ups. Nowadays, Pia is applying years of experience to build a brain health company, the Mind Smith. Pia, take a moment and tell us about the unique value you are bringing to this wonderful world.
Oh, well, thank you so much. I think if I have to sum it up in one line, I would say that smart people learn from their mistakes, but the real sharp ones learn from the mistakes of others, right? So, what I am bringing to the world is the gaps that people oversee in their brain health, in the most important organ of the body, the control center of our body, our brain. So I'm trying to plug those gaps so that people can optimize their health, their emotions, their well being, and in turn, the life that they live.
That's valuable. I mean, I would say the COVID situation over the last couple of years really messed up people's brains.
Yes.
And also add on top of it the divisions that are caused by social media that exacerbate divisions, and then add on to it the attention disaster that mobile phones are doing to the youth and the people of this world. I mean, I've read thousands of books and I can't hardly read a book anymore. It's like I get stuck into YouTube. And
Yes.
I just think that, right, and to add on top of that, something that you and I just were talking about before we turned on the microphone is that, and everybody's looking for a pill.
They do, yes.
That's a problem. Even like my mom, I know when I brought my mother from America when my father passed away, and she had high blood pressure. And I said, we're going to work on this, not through medicine, but through nutrition and, weight and stuff like that. And it took a time, but eventually she got off that medicine. And, we have different foods and other things that we use to try to reduce the blood pressure. But the key thing is, I just remember my mom saying, can't you just give me a pill?
It's
So,
easier.
that's one of the things we're fighting against. But maybe just if you could for a moment explain the type of challenges or problem that your typical customer would have, so that the listeners could see if what you're doing is suitable for them, and then tell them where they should go to learn about that.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, say, my ambition with the Mindsmith is a world where every person realizes their desired emotional, psychological, as well as social potential. We all have so much of potential and we all have stressors, right? So you could have a very bad day at work and you would come home and blast your wife. The wife blasts gets angry on the kid kicks the dog. So, all those things. Then sometimes what happens is that there are things that you loved to do, you were so much into them, and then suddenly you've lost interest. Suddenly you don't feel like doing that. You could probably be losing sleep. You could probably be having problems in bedroom. You could have erectile dysfunctions. You could have problems to do with your sexual life, your intimate life. You could be addicted. You could be getting into substance use, which is not healthy, right? You could be you could have that high level of anxiety the minute you enter into a room full of people. You're not so comfortable anymore. You could have had cases of physical or mental abuse as a kid or as a grown up,
Mhm.
and now your confidence has really gone down and you don't really know how to cope with things. So, for any individual, the biology works the same way. Our body functions almost in a similar fashion. The process remains same, right? But the way every individual is able to deal with stressors in their lives is different, because we are unique. Our lives are unique. Our stressors are unique. What might be a very small thing for my friend could be a very hard hitting thing for me, and that's perfectly fine. So there are things wherein you feel sad, withdrawn. You could feel, this life is not worth living anymore. You could not understand what the purpose is. Why am I doing all this, right? So all these things wherein you are not functioning at an optimal level of what you could be, it is something that can be addressed. And that is, if there's one thing I want you to take away from the whole thing that I have been saying, it is that anything that is making you unhappy and is coming from inside can be managed.
Mm, exciting. And where should people go if they want to learn more about what you're doing?
So most of it is on our social media pages. The social media handle is @Mindsmith India. You could also go to our website, but there's more, less on information, more on the process. It is
Mm,
mindsmith.co.in. So you could actually visit our social media. We have presence on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and we put out a lot of content that can help people.
yep. And I'll have links to all that in the show notes, ladies and gentlemen. So if you want to learn more, come and click. Well, now it's time to share your worst investment ever. And since no one goes into their worst investment thinking it will be, tell us a bit about the circumstances leading up to it and then tell us your story.
Oh, it's actually a very interesting one. Let me go back a few years. So this is me. I am 29, and you know, the marriage is fixed, and I'm supposed to get married in a couple of months. And when I say couple of months, I'm talking about 3 to 4 months period, and I'm supposed to get married. Now, like all brown parents, it is my parents were like, oh, we need to do this, we need to do that, and then it gets a lot out of hand and out of budget. This is the time when I'm thinking, oh my God, what can I do to help them? And one of my very good friends from Royal Bank of Scotland, my ex-colleague, happened to just contact me. And she's like, I am building a business and I would very much want you to be a part of it. And it gives you very early returns. And why don't you give it a try? Oh, and suddenly, as if by coincidence, here I'm thinking that I need to help my parents financially. And from the other side, my friend reaches out and tells me there's an opportunity. So, wow. I went, I met her, and it looked like a beautiful plan. It was all on paper, the numbers were all there, they were achievable. Um, Oh, and I thought, wow, I mean, this is going to give me good sort of money in next 3 to 4 months. So let me go ahead with it. And I invested a considerable amount, which very stupidly I pulled out of the funds kept for my marriage, which was supposed to happen in 3 months. So I pulled out a substantial amount. I put it in that business. And now I am all gaga over it, right? I go to the meetings, I try to build it up, I follow the process, I do what they ask me to do, and I work the numbers. Sales is numbers. You do 20 pitches, you convert two. You do 200 pitches, you convert 20. So something like that is when, if you have a sales background, you would know that.
Mm.
So I'm like, yes, okay, numbers I can do. So I tried all the processes and everything that I could have done. And 4 months passed away and I was in a deficit. The amount of funds that were available were taken off. I had no profits. And then we had to take a loan to basically compensate for the withdrawal that I made.
Mm.
So that and was my worst investment
And how did
ever.
you wrap it up? I mean, like, how did you exit it or say, okay, I can't do this anymore?
No, I actually had to write it off. There was no other way. I had to write it off. So A, I lost that money. B, I had to pay back the loan. So, eventually I had to kind of take off double the amount that I invested. One, I had to write it off, and the other part, the same equivalent amount along with interest, I had to pay back to the banks. It was painful. It was
And
damn painful.
did you manage to keep your husband and your family through that, or was there any losses?
So, well, it was personal, so it obviously did not go to my husband.
Yep.
But oh my God, you get married. I was not working. 6 months into marriage, I conceived, I had a kid. It was a very bad plan to start with. And then I could not um, plan it well even afterwards because, in brand families, Indian families, we're supposed to follow certain milestones,
Yep.
right? So my milestones were due, and because of the concentration that my milestones required, I could not concentrate on making the other end, like uh, getting my investment.
Mm.
Uh, oh my God.
So how would you describe the lessons that you learned?
A, there are no shortcuts.
Mm.
If there is the biggest one that I want to say, there are no shortcuts. B, I think what I did wrong was mm, when my friend reached out, I was in a very excited mindset, and I did not really weigh the pros and cons. I did not think, what if it does not work? For me, it was like, oh, it's going to work. And I did not do my due diligence. I did not understand, or I did not talk to enough people to see if, this has been done earlier, or if there are people who have made money in 3 4 months, even if there was a proportion, 20 25% who would, I would still say it was okay to go ahead. But in this case, later when I checked, I found out there were like hardly 1% people who would make money in 3 months.
Mm.
And that's a very big ratio, compared 99% is a very big ratio of failure. And I
Mm.
stepped right in.
Oh, well, maybe I'll just summarize a couple of things I took away. The first thing, as I thought, one of the objectives in investing is to protect your money. And what's fascinating about interviewing so many people is so many rational people, for some reason, just make a rash decision without really doing the research. And that's kind of my second point, is that, you've got to do the research. And you said about this, and I always say to my students and other people that I talk to, is nothing good comes easy.
No,
It
I
may,
agree.
there are, you could have some good things happen to you through luck, but you can't build a life around luck. So if we think about it, nothing good comes easy. And if you see something really good coming easy, you've got to ask some questions. And then the last thing that I thought about was have a process. My process nowadays is to talk to my business partners. And I say, okay, here's an idea. Let me present it and see what you think. And that it does a couple of things. I mean, it tests the idea, tests how strong I feel about it, but it also reminds me that my time is not my time. I have a family, I have business partners, and they want a return from me, whether that's being a part of the family and contributing what I need to contribute, whether that's a monetary return, but they want that and they have an obligation to it, particularly if you're doing business with partners. So set up a process. So those are some of the things that I took away. Anything you would add to that?
Oh, yes. I think the last point that you said about having a process, running it up your friends, just picking the brains of the experts that you have in your community, especially, um, uh, I learned from my mistakes and I learned fast. So right now, I think one more thing that I would like to add to this is that let the experts do their work, as a person, I might be very smart, but when it comes to a certain expertise, you may be able to do it, which is wonderful, but take it off your head. Give it to a person who's a pro at it so that A, you will not be bombarded. You'll not have to go out of your comfort zone to do things that they do on a routine, usual basis, right? And B is I think one thing that I have learned, and I have learned all kind of things from my many, many mistakes, is that we can never stop making them. And it's okay, perfectly fine.
Yeah, that's a great point. And, mistakes are part of the process of discovery. So let's go back in time and think about that moment in time and think about a young woman, a young man that is in a similar situation. And based upon what you learn from this story and what you continue to learn, what one action would you recommend our listeners take to avoid suffering the same fate?
Okay. I think you covered all of it, Andrew, in the points that you had mentioned earlier, that do your research. A is do your research, because nothing speaks success more than the efforts that you've put in. If you look at it as a law of cause and effect, any sort of energy, even if it is a mental energy that you put into something, it does not go waste. So research, right? Two, if you have experts around you, go to them, talk to them. Three, if you don't know about something and you want to get into it, talk to at least 20 people from different, geographies, directions, who are involved with that sort of thing, who have tried it, to understand what all it takes. It's not just financial, but it's a lot of commitment and efforts, your time and other resources that go in. So you need to talk to people before you get into something. And I think the fourth one that I'll tell you is, and this, comes from my current work with brain health, is we make bad decisions and we do it all the time, and it's okay. Like, no, do not confuse poor decision making with destiny. Own your mistake. It's okay. We all make them.
Yep. Yeah, I think that's a lesson I've learned, is that you're going to make mistakes. So be prepared. So what's a resource you'd recommend for our listeners?
Okay, so I'd say you should go to our LinkedIn channel, which is @Mindsmith India, because there are a lot of things that are coming out. We coming out with podcasts, the articles. It would tell you what to expect in what a situation. There are monthly lives on various things. Like the last one we had was on self-esteem. So you would find tips and tricks for which you really don't have to wait for an appointment with a doctor or an expert, right? You find something off the bat taken and you'd be able to use it in your life. So, of every other channel, if I have to say something, I'd say our LinkedIn channel,
Yep.
@Mindsmith India. or the Facebook group. So we're a
Okay.
closed community, and that's where me and our experts, we are practically available every time.
Hmm. Okay. Last question. What is your number one goal for the next 12 months?
Also, I really want to build a frontline defense, something like a mental health first aid task force. We know CPRs, there is there is first aid in every other sort of health exigencies that we have. So my topmost goal is to build a task force across the country wherein these people are trained in the front line, in the primary healthcare thing, and they can identify and refer people to get treatment before it really gets out of hand.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Well, listeners, there you have it. Another story of loss to keep you winning. Remember, I'm on a mission to help 1 million people reduce risk in their lives. If you have not yet joined that mission, just go to myworstinvestmentever.com and join my free weekly Become a Better Investor newsletter to reduce risk in your life. As we conclude, Pia, I want to thank you again for joining our mission. And on behalf of A Stotz Academy, I hereby award you alumni status for turning your worst investment ever into your best teaching moment. Do you have any parting words for the audience?
Um, well, I always have a parting words. I'd say that good judgment, it comes from experience, and the experience comes from bad judgment.
Great, great concept to think about. And that's a wrap on another great story to help us create, grow, and protect our wealth. Fellow risk takers, let's celebrate that today we added one more person to our mission to help 1 million people reduce risk in their lives. This is your worst podcast host, Andrew Stotz, saying, I'll see you on the upside.